On this bright and sunny day. Welcome to our online guests as well. I'm just going to invite everyone to stand as we sing our first community song. Thank you to Lauren Montgomery, our guest artist for today. What a great way to start our morning. Good morning again, and welcome to the Sierra Center for Spiritual Living. I want you to know that whether you are here in the center or you are joining us as part of our online audience, that no matter where you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. My name is Karen Blakely. I go by Rev K, and I am a staff minister here at the center, and it is my honor to be your host today. All right, and so at this time, we want to just give some love to our children's church. Let's just go ahead and rub our hands together and just send some love and light headed this way to the beautiful kids area, knowing that our children and teens program is continuing to grow. Our beautiful Jessica Sunshine at the helm. All right, so every Sunday we like to remind ourselves of who we are and what we believe. We are a supportive, inclusive, spiritual community that celebrates all of life. And we do this by aspiring to live authentic spiritual lives through the teachings and the practical applications of the science of mind. And there's a lot of different things that we can talk about in the science of mind, and so we have boiled these down to a fairly high-level summary of science of mind beliefs. The first one, all thought is creative and influential. I like to think about this as the good news and the bad news, because it means if we're thinking negative thoughts, we're encouraging that to outpicture in our world. But as we manifest and create and really lean into those positives, we can create that in our world as well. Number 2 is that there is only God. That indwelling God within us is like that light that shines bright, that as we walk into a dark room, we can flip on the light and it dissolves the darkness. And we can do that equating of the darkness of the evil and devilishness, then starts and stops right here in our mind of any moment we can flip that switch and be in the light. Number 3 is that everything in our experience is either an expression of love or a call for love. And the expression of love is really easy to feel when we're in that space of heart open and with somebody who just lights us up. And the call for love can be a little bit more challenging. And that's when we're having an experience or something that really bumps up against us. Can we remember that that too is a call for love, and be love in that moment or that situation, whether that's a neighbor or a friend or even a car that cuts us off in traffic. And number 4, well, I heard a in that one, yeah. Number 4, one of my personal favorites, is that no matter what anybody told you when you were little, or what that little voice in your head that runs that negative rhetoric, no matter anything that has happened before this moment, when I look out at each of you, literally if you are hearing my voice in this moment, you are whole, perfect, and complete right now. Let's just breathe that in for a moment. And we love to celebrate here at the Sierra Center for Spiritual Living. And so if you are here for the first or second time and you are feeling comfortable, would you just raise your hand so that we can celebrate you and clap for you and welcome you in? All right. Have a couple of brave people in our audience today. I love that. And if you are here in the center and you are feeling called, you can go ahead and sign up on our newsletter that's on that tall table to learn about all of the things that are going on at the center. And then for our online guests, I'll tell you in just a little bit what that website is, and you can sign up on our newsletter there as well. All right, I failed to get a candle lighter today, so who would like to light our inclusion candle? Billy, would you light our inclusion candle? You're in the front row, so I'm just you'll be okay. I think you can do it. All right. We light this candle to celebrate the unity of all peoples, all faiths, all beings, and all life, honoring the infinity of oneness as all creation, seen and unseen, to remind us of the light of spirit within each one of us. Yes. Thank you, Billy. I also want to remind you that we are a praying community, and the ecclesiastic team here loves to pray. And so there are lavender prayer request forms in the back of the seat pockets, and you can fill those out and place them in the wooden box that's just to the left of the entryway door. Prayer will also be available after service with me. I am your practitioner for the day. And for those of you in our virtual audience, you can visit our website, that's sierracenter.org. You'll click on spiritual support and then prayer, and then one of our practitioners can reach out to you, and the ecclesiastic team will pray over those all of the time. All right, so before I invite Jerry Lynn up for our general announcements, I wanted to make one additional announcement today, and that is that I am going to be starting a free leadership class. And so this will be on a love offering donation. It's going to be every Monday in April, so starts April 6th. It'll go from 5 to 7 p.m., and it's the 15 commitments of conscious leadership. If you haven't been introduced to this body of work, it is unlike other leadership programs and really talks about how we be. And so if there's anywhere in your life that you are leading a team or leading a group, even if you're retired and you're not in a work environment anymore, I guarantee you will benefit from this book study. The books are available both. You can buy the actual book for around $15, or you can download it digitally for about $3. So this is really a win-win. I hope that you'll all consider coming to that book study in April. All right, and then we'll have Jerry Lynn come up for the rest of the announcements.
Good morning. What an amazing spring day. Oh, yes. We had an extraordinary board meeting yesterday up at Ananda, and I just want to tell you all we're excited to bring some new stuff to you. But that's for another time. I just want to introduce myself. I'm Jerry Lynn, and here are today's announcements. There is space still open in the Sierra Center Living Circle, which is Thursdays from 5:30 to 7, in person or online via Zoom. This circle is a space for deep, meaningful conversations on articles from the Science and Mind magazine, and you can sign up in the foyer on the long table. Please sign up to bring a main dish for April 5th, the Easter Sunday potluck. Also, our North of 70 circle will meet on Tuesday, March 24th from 10:30 to 12:30. And this is a support networking group for those 70 and older, and it's good. Work Your Workshop with Rev Mitch, Saturday, March 28th from 10 to 3. Learn how to turn your lived experience into a workshop. And 5, Dr. Hazel Grace Yates will be offering their very popular Art of Repair introductory workshop on Sunday, March 29th after service. They're with us today. Not? Okay, we will skip that till next week. And we want to also invite you to save the date for the Peace Gathering on Saturday, April 4th, from 5:30 to 7, a night to embody peace and radiate more peace into the world. It will include the Peace Choir, poetry, readings, chants, and more. And we are taking teens to camp. We at the Sierra Center for Spiritual Living have received grant money to help send teens ages 13 to 18 to the camp in Oregon on July 11th to the 17th. Registration begins March 18th. See Rev Mitch for more information. And now, help me to welcome to the stage Greg Ingram, Executive Director of A New Day, our community tithe recipient for February, who will come up and tell us a bit about the organization. Yay. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. How's everybody? Thank you so much. I'm thrilled. We need you on the mic. Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here. Good morning. So I'm the executive director of A New Day, which is a grassroots nonprofit mental health clinic in Nevada City. We started 20 years ago. We're celebrating our 20th anniversary May 2nd. So if anybody wants a hot dog, hamburger, and whatever, come swing by. I'm going to leave some flyers. it's going to be a neat celebration because you'll get to tour our offices. We have 14 counseling rooms, and we have a wonderful large gathering room where we do a terrific amount of community-related activities. And we're going to have multiple stations set up to learn about the different services we offer. So we are free or affordable for the community. So, and we have numerous scholarship programs. So this donation means the world to us. We are not plugged into major donors. Everything is truly grassroots, person to person, former clients, former volunteers, former therapists that have worked for us. And I don't know how you folks heard about us, and I shouldn't just look at Reverend Mitch. It could be anyone in here, but bless you. Thank you so much for giving to us. We are exceptionally careful with the funds that come in. We really only have 3 employees that are full-time. We have 30 people in our organization. Of course, we have about 8 people that receive some compensation, but we work terrifically hard to keep costs as minimal as possible, so every dollar that comes in, as much of every dollar as possible, goes to caring for somebody in our community that is suffering and needs emotional support. So this donation means the world to me and us. Thank you very much. Do I get a big hug?
Oh, 100%. Thank you
very
so much, Greg, for coming.
And I just want to add that the information, flyers, and sign-up sheets for all classes and events are located in the foyer. And you can also find Zoom links and details about our announcements in our e-letter and on our website, sierracenter.org. And a friendly reminder to please silence your cell phones.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I just love all of this. And speaking of things that we love, I'd like to invite Lauren Montgomery back up for our next song, I Am Love.
Love is who I am. Everything an expression of love, or calling for love. Stay up into the voice from within. I know who I am. I
Thank you so much, Lauren Montgomery. What a great way to start our time of inward shift. Again, I am your practitioner for the day, Rev K, and I brought a reading from the 365 Days of Richer Living, which is a daily inspiration. And so it'll have some words and then kind of an affirmation that we can hold together. Our only contact with the world is through our 5 senses. Each of us reacts to the impressions that come to us from them in different ways. When we make judgments of the world and of our particular situation in the world, we are actually stating our own limited viewpoints. We are the only thinkers in our individual worlds. We alone decide and evaluate the impressions that come to us. We can face the negative of the universe and see through them to the divine world made by the one perfect mind. This is the affirmation. Today, I dedicate my 5 senses to the presence of God. Wherever my senses tell me about myself, my fellow humans, or my world, I shall question. I shall see if it is in accordance with God's idea of people and the world. I shall see if it is in accord with the perfect God creating a perfect human being and maintaining that people in the perfect world of order and love. I refuse to accept any judgment based upon the false standards of illness, fatigue, lack, or inharmony. These are not of God, and they cannot be true of my world, myself, or of my fellow humans. I affirm that God is perfect. God made me perfect, and God made the world a heavenly place. I know this is the truth. Only God I see, taste, touch, smell, and hear, for God is all there really is. And so let us take this thought in as we lean into our Om and then continue on into a time of silent meditation. I'm going to ring the bell 3 times, 1 time, and then we'll Om, and then I'll repeat that 2 more times, after which we'll go into that meditation. is to spend this time in meditation together. And it is my honor to speak a spiritual mind treatment for our service this day. Just claiming and knowing that there is only one. I call this one God. I call it good. I call it love. And I know that each and every one of us are a part of this, that we too are God made manifest in this world, that love, that joy is us. That it radiates through everything that we do, every smile, every connection. And I know, too, that the Sierra Center for Spiritual Living is a beacon of that light and love, that shining, radiating, rippling out love into this greater world throughout our city and our town, lighting up our entire state, across the entire U.S., and around the globe, and then out into the universe and beyond. For love is that power, that one powerful force in the universe. And so I simply speak a word over every volunteer that made this service happen, over our guest artist, Lauren Montgomery, and the beautiful music that touches our hearts, and every word of wisdom that is spoken by Rev Mitch this day, knowing that each is divinely guided and that we are here exactly on time, just how we're supposed to be and just where we need to be. And I am so grateful to know these truths and to speak them into the service this day. And so it is in a heart that is filled with joy and gratitude that I cast them forth into the law. I let it go. I let it be, knowing that sweet Spirit always whispers, yes, beloveds, yes, yes, and yes. And we know this together by saying together, and so it is. And then I would like to invite Lauren. You want me to do Lauren or you want me to do Hazel? Okay, we'll invite Lauren Montgomery back up. Sorry, had a little bit of changes in the order of service today for another song.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no country. Isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. No religion too. Imagine all the people living life the world will live as one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brother, sisterhood of humans. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one. The world will live as one, and the world will live as one.
Beautiful. Let's give it up one more time for Lauren Montgomery. So beautiful. Thank you. Well, happy Sunday, everyone. Turn to somebody and say, glad you came today. Let's greet each other. Glad you came today. Glad I'm here today. Yeah. So glad we're all in the room. So before I dive into kind of what I'm going to do, I'm going to invite up to the stage Dr. Hazel Grace Yates. I'd like to invite them up to the stage to talk about the art of repair. Little hand for Hazel Grace, please. Thank you so much.
Thank you. How many minutes?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay. Raise your hand if you've ever been in any relationship with anyone, neighbor, friend, partner. Do you have any relationships at all in your life? Raise your hand if anyone has maybe ever gotten any sort of conflict, misunderstanding, argument in your whole life. Okay, raise your hand if you were raised knowing how to resolve conflict and that you were fully understood and your parents taught you really good communication tools. Me either. I want to keep this brief. I teach a thing called the art of repair. Repair is an acronym. It's 6 steps, and it supports you to go from having some sort of rupture, conflict, upset, and going through it such that you have more connection than before the rupture happened. And I even get to practice later a repair for being late today. So thank you for weaving me in here. I'll get to put my action to practice. So this work came by way of me healing my relationship with my father. And so what I'm up to in the world is intergenerational healing. And I believe being able to have these skills and these tools to use conflict in a generative way, meaning conflict has the power and the potential to generate more trust and connection than before if we have the right tools. And so I will be here March 29th, next Sunday, doing a 90-minute workshop, and then that will be a feeder for my longer workshops that I'll be offering in April and May. Yeah, thank you.
And I want to thank Hazel Grace for responding. I just reached out to her from, out of the blue, this person, and I just want to thank you for saying yes and being so gracious with sharing your gifts with our community. So thank you so much. Speaking of classes, we're going to do Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life. That's our foundational class here at the center. It's only 6 weeks long. I'm going to teach it and co-teach it with Rev Lanny. So you get 2 Revs for the price of 1 in this class. And it's going to start in April, I think April 14th. It's going to be Tuesday nights, 6:30 to 9. So if you're interested, please get on the list over there. One more announcement on the peace gathering. I am ecstatic that we just landed as our speaker for the event, Dr. Barbara Ledger. And Dr. Barbara, who's also a Science of Mind minister, has been working with the Ukraine for over a decade now in bringing a peace curriculum to their schools, and she has helped teach over 40,000 kids peace principles. Isn't that amazing? And she's coming here on April 4th, and she's going to talk for about 15, 20 minutes, share some of her stories and how we can respond with peace in a time of such great chaos. So please put this on your calendar. Saturday, April 4th, 5:30 to 7. It's a great night to bring a friend. We're going to also have drumming, peace poetry, the peace choir, readings. It's going to be an incredible night. Hope you can join us. And again, it's a good time to bring somebody. Just last little note on bathrooms. I know sometimes we got to talk about these things. During service, when you go through, if you have to use the restroom, please use the one on the left. We keep the one on the right for children's church so that they can have their own space to go during the class. So thank you for that so much. And next week, don't miss next week, we're doing something really special. We're going to do a ministers panel. So up here will be Rev K, myself, and Rev Lanny, and you're all going to get index cards. And you can write down, what do you do about blank? And we're going to give you a Science of Mind kind of answer. So it's going to be a fun kind of interactive service next Sunday. So good time to get your questions answered. So there was a young monk, and he was in the quiet order in a remote monastery. He was permitted to speak only 2 words every 10 years. The first 10 years went by. He came to the abbot and he said, "Food bad." The abbot nodded. 20 years went by and he went to the abbot and his 2 words were, "Bed hard." The abbot nodded. 30 years go by. The monk went to the abbot and said, "I quit." The abbot said, "Well, I'm not surprised. You've been complaining since you got here." One of my favorites. Anybody ever get a flat tire? The worst. Sometimes I think I have a flat tire and I don't, and I pull over and I look. Like, anybody ever do that? I think it's going flat. There was a man, he was driving home one evening on a quiet road, and out of nowhere he heard the thump, thump, thump. He gets out, he pulls over, he says, he looks at it, he goes, "I have a flat tire. Of course this happens to me. This just keeps getting worse. I don't have time for this. Why does this always happen when I'm finally getting ahead?" Anybody ever say those phrases to themselves? Some version of them, right? His body tightened, his jaw clenched, his heart raced. Now here's the interesting thing. The tire is still flat. It hasn't been changed. But now something else has entered his experience. Frustration, blame, resistance. Kicks the tire, probably breaks his toe, right? Paces back and forth. And he replays the whole day in his head. He starts what I call awfulizing, how everything seems to be going wrong, and painting the whole windshield of his life as if everything is bad. Now 15 minutes has gone by. The trunk hasn't even been opened yet, and he still needs to fix the tire. Because he's busy fighting the fact that the tire is flat and all the imaginary things he's attached to it. Now imagine something different. Same road, same tire, but this time he steps out and says, "Well, this is what's happening." Takes a breath, goes over to the trunk, opens it, and 10 minutes later, he's on the road. Same situation, but two completely different experiences. See, the flat tire is the external thing he couldn't control. And we all have some version of a flat tire of something we can't control in our life. But everything else is what the mind added to the event that's not helpful. So the question for us today is not how do we avoid the flat tires of life necessarily, but how do we stop wounding ourselves after life has already done what it has done? See, because most of our suffering is not from what initially happens, it's all the argument and resistance after what has happened, right? And what we really need is a mindset reset just after that unexpected or unwanted event shows up. See, our minds react to what shows up, and what we need to do is hit the reset button before that reaction comes out. Try to stay present in the moment with what is. And when we can stay present in the moment with what is, we can stay in greater alignment with spiritual laws that are reacting to how we're reacting, right? So if we're telling ourselves a disempowering story, guess what? We get to see more disempowering things. But if we stay present to what's possible and just move through the event with acceptance instead of resisting it, we get a different experience and we vibrate differently. So we get different results, right? Kind of like change your thinking, change your life. That's why we offer that class. Marcus Aurelius, who was an emperor and also a philosopher, he says, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Isn't that true? Anybody imagine a million things that never actually happened, right? Most people are not suffering because of what happened. They're suffering because of the argument they're having about what happened. See, it's not the event. It's the argument. It's the resistance. It's what Buddha calls the second arrow. See, the first arrow occurs when the loss happens, or the diagnosis, or the rejection, or the unexpected turn. That's the first arrow. That's the condition. But that second arrow that Buddha talks about, that's the story we make up, right? This shouldn't have happened. Right? Or it means something's wrong or I'm wrong, right? So many times we go and we start beating ourselves up, or we start beating God up, or we start saying life has betrayed us. We get stuck in what's called the drama triangle, victim, villain, hero. And that's where all the suffering happens. But here's the liberation. The second arrow is optional. Everyone say this. The second arrow is optional. I want to introduce you to a friend of mine, Elena. Elena was a high-performing professional, organized, driven, and respected. She had a clear plan for life until one day it unraveled. She lost her job unexpectedly, and in the same week, her partner ended their relationship. She found herself sitting in her car in the grocery store parking lot, unable to go inside. Not because she didn't know what to buy, but because she was having a crisis of consciousness. She just didn't know who she was anymore. She wasn't the partner of the person, and she wasn't the title that she just had from the job that she got let go of. Those were the first arrows, but now came in the second. Who am I? What does this mean? Elena's mind began to construct meaning. Have I failed? Should I have seen this coming? Anybody ever say that? Should I have seen that coming? Right? Why does this always happen to me? Life is against me. And here's what we must understand. Our brains are meaning-making machines. That's what they do. They try to understand the world around us. But they're woefully imperfect, because the mind only does three things. It generalizes, deletes, and distorts. That's not very accurate, is it? So we have to really pay attention to the doorway of our mind and how we're creating that second arrow. Because conditions only have the power over us that we allow. You know, Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science, says, we are not bound by conditions, we are bound by our thoughts about conditions. Right? We are not bound by conditions. That's why two people can have the same conditions and have very different experiences. See, our thoughts about conditions, now that's the second arrow. And our job is to catch that arrow, right? When it's coming out the gate, catch that arrow and do something positive with it. You know, somebody who is really good at catching the arrow and using the power of the mind to shape their experiences, Louise Hay. Anybody know? You Can Heal Your Life. She's known for that book. And here's her famous affirmation. She would catch that arrow. She says, right when that condition happens, that first arrow happens, she said, say this: all is well. Everything is always working out for me. From this, only good will come, and I am safe. So she took that arrow and made it a wand. And each and every one of us can do that. In fact, when we do that, when we're able to accept what is and stay present and stay in our prefrontal cortex, our thinking, planning, responding brain, versus our amygdala, which is our reactive fight, flight, freeze brain, that's when we can start to shape our experience. And neuroscience has taught us that when things hit the amygdala, it can't distinguish between a real threat and one that we're imagining. So if we have the first condition come in, and then we take our second arrow and we start making it worse, our brain, our fight, flight, freeze is amplified. We can't think, we can't plan, we can't respond. So when the threat came in, Elena replayed it. She said, what should I have done different? What went wrong? What does this mean? Who's had the 2 a.m. what should I have done different disease? Totally. Or you're in your car and you keep replaying the conversation. I should have said this. I should have said that. Right? And what happens is with that second arrow, when we keep staying in this active state of the amygdala, it floods our body with cortisol. Cortisol is good if you need to run from a lion, right? Puts all the blood in the muscles and stops the digestive system, right? So it's directing energy. But cortisol over time, what happens is it suppresses your immune system. It damages your ability to digest and repair. So we can't stay in that state for a long amount of time. So and we call this activation of our nervous system. And see, she wasn't just remembering the pain, she was reliving it biologically. And when we keep reliving it biologically and through our mind and our emotions and our experience, that's what we call suffering. See, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. And when we enter this state of suffering, what happens is that we start using all of our mind power, our resources, our energy to pour into a story or trying to make meaning of something. And then we waste our resources that allow us to actually be more resilient and to cope. And it can keep us trapped in the experience of that. So we need to stop arguing with reality. You know, Marcus Aurelius put it this way: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find your strength. You will find your strength. Most of us live like this. We don't just experience life, we negotiate with it. We argue with what already is. It shouldn't have happened. They shouldn't have done that. We should all over ourselves. Anybody ever should all over yourself? Should. I said should. I got to enunciate. I was just arguing with reality this morning. So I didn't sleep very well. Anybody have a bad night of sleep? And then you're like, oh, I should have slept better. Oh, I only got 4 hours, right? And then we start setting up this story about how the day is going to go. I started doing that, and I went, wait a minute, that's the second arrow. What if it can be different? What if it could be great? What if this day could be the most amazing day? What if, like, energy could just rise up because of the people I'm around or the good vibes that are coming my way? I started reorienting my story. I caught the second arrow and using it differently. Because here's a spiritual truth. Reality does not respond to argument. It simply is. It simply is. Ernest Holmes says, the sooner we come to understand that we do not control the law, and we're talking about spiritual laws like law of attraction and law of cause and effect. And he goes on to say, but that the law controls us, in other words, the experience we have, the sooner we shall adjust ourselves to find harmony. And this is not resignation, this is alignment. Alignment with cause and effect. See, the law is impersonal. It just does its thing, right? It just does its thing, just like the law of gravity does its thing. I may not have meant to step off the roof, but when I do, I'm going to hit the ground, right? And it's not personal. You know, Elena had a turning point. One evening, after weeks of anxiety and exhaustion, Elena saw a therapist who said something very simple and very powerful. The therapist said, what if nothing has gone wrong? What if nothing has gone wrong? Now, she resisted at first, of course, something had gone wrong. But later that night, she sat in the silence and she noticed something. The event had already happened, but she was fighting it internally. And that fight was exhausting her. Anyone feel exhausted by your own thoughts? Yeah. And the nervous system responds. We stay in that sympathetic fight, flight, freeze response. And when we release the argument, we shift into the parasympathetic state. That's where we rest, digest, restore, and we move from our, what I lovingly call our crazy brain, to our sane brain, where clarity is, where we can see things as they are and not as we wish them to be. See, this isn't just biology, this is spiritual embodiment that we're talking about. Because when we're in the state of the parasympathetic, clarity returns, our intuition, we can hear the small, still voice versus the splashiness of our fear brain. Creativity reopens, presence emerges. You know, in Science of Mind, we might say this is where we become available to divine intelligence. We have the receptivity for a higher solution to come in that we can see. That we move in a different dimension of being when we're able to stay present and not get caught up in the story and the reaction. Ernest Holmes says, there is a presence and a power in the universe greater than we are, and we can use it. And not only can we use it, you're always using it. Do you know you're always using it? And we're either using it consciously or unconsciously. And this is why I want to talk about this, because when we wake up to a condition that shows up, we got to stand really vigilant at the doorway of our mind, because whatever we put our attention onto, we're interacting with this power. And then it's going to react, and it's going to show up, and it's going to confirm what we're telling ourselves. So acceptance is part of this process. And acceptance is not passivity, by the way. It's saying this is how, it's not saying this is how things will always be, it's just saying this is true right now, right? And from that truth we can move, and how we move and how we shape it starts with what we do with that second arrow. And then that interacts with spiritual law. And it doesn't matter what happened in the past. We hold on to the past, but principle, spirit, the divine doesn't. God doesn't hold our past against us. We do. Here's how Ernest Holmes put it. He said, principle is not bound by precedent. Principle, in other words, spiritual law, this power for good. It's not bound by it's not bound by precedent. It doesn't care what happened. So if the divine mind doesn't care, why do we? Right? You know, Colonel Sanders, many of you know his story. He failed at business over and over and over. And there he is in his senior years. I'm sure people are saying, will you give up already? You know, get a job or, you know, get some stability. And he goes, no, I have chicken and I have a recipe. And he just kept going and became wildly successful. right? So the moment we stop arguing with reality, we are no longer bound to it. This is important. I think we've all met the person who has had some crisis that happened long ago, and they start telling you about it, and you could swear it just happened last week, and then you ask them when they happened, and they're like, oh, 1995. They're still living in it. Their life has not moved past that point, right? Because they're still arguing with reality. Shouldn't have happened. They shouldn't have done it, or I shouldn't have done it, whatever it is. See, it's our mind's argument with reality that's activating spiritual laws and mirroring that argument back. And then we call that reality, but it isn't. It's what we're making and creating with the mind story. But when we step into acceptance without judgment, that's when everything shifts. That's when we can see beyond the, what I call the funhouse mirrors of the mind more clearly. You know, Elena began practicing one simple sentence that helped her shift out of this second arrow suffering. And she said this. She said, this is what is happening. This is what is happening. Not this shouldn't be happening, just this is what is happening. And something in her body started to soften. Her breath deepened, her mind quieted, and for the first time in weeks, she could see clearly. Because all those resources she was dedicating to resistance are now available for coping, for seeing, for understanding. So how do we stay out of reaction and reset our mindset? The first thing is just to name the first arrow. Be honest about what happened. Not the story, not the meaning, not who's to blame, just the facts. And for Helena, the facts were, I got let go of my job on a Wednesday, and on a Friday, my partner ended our relationships. That's the facts. No story there, no shame or blame or drama or judgment. Then identify the second arrow. What am I telling myself about this? Because that's where the suffering is. What am I telling myself about this? Elena was saying it shouldn't have happened. What did I do? How am I wrong? Why has this always happened to me? Right? She was just taking that second arrow. Right? And if you catch yourself doing that with the second arrow, ask, why am I doing that? Why am I doing that? And take a breath. Because when we take a breath, number 3 is we regulate our nervous system. So let's take a breath in and a long exhale out. That extra long exhale triggers the vagus nerve, calms our nervous system, and brings us back to our prefrontal cortex, to our sane brain. And the fourth practice is practice radical allowing. And I don't mean approval or agreement. What I'm talking about is allowing reality to be exactly what it is, so you can respond to it. Because that's where our freedom is. That's where our power is. And then choose your response from clarity once you've calmed your nervous system, right? Because now the power has returned and you can see things as they are because you've accepted them as they are. All right? And here's the problem. When we resist what is and we don't have that step of acceptance, we try to operate on something that isn't true. You ever have a conversation with a friend, they come to you for advice, and you think you know exactly what their problem is, and you try to fix that problem, they go, that's not the problem. Have you ever had that experience? I've done that because I'm like, I know, here, let me help you. And they're like, no, that isn't the problem. And I'm like, because I wasn't seeing things clearly. I wasn't accepting what is. You know, over the next year after these events, Elena didn't just recover. She rebuilt. Not from panic, not from fear, not from judgment, from presence. She found work that aligned more deeply with her values. She formed relationships rooted in authenticity, not performance. She says it this way. She says, I didn't change my life by fixing what happened. I changed my life by stopping the argument with what had already happened. And when we do that, we can move into another chapter. We can move into the next space that is ours to live. So here's the invitation. Life will send the first arrow. We will all get a first arrow. This is part of being human. But the second arrow, that is where consciousness lives. That is where freedom lives. That is where your spiritual practices need to come up to bat. Use the second arrow. Catch it and use it. Stay in acceptance and move from there. And in closing, I'll give a little more Ernest Holmes wisdom. He says, we must learn to meet life, not to fight it, but to accept it and use it. Blessed be. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. If you will please rise, I will read our affirmation once, and then I will invite you to read it with us. I reset my thinking, align with truth, and welcome infinite possibilities into my life. Together. I reset my thinking, align with truth, and welcome infinite possibilities into my life. And so it is. Please have a seat, and if you will, take your gift into your hand, and we'll invite Lauren up here in a second to do a little noodling. Also, if you want to give online, you can text to Sierra CSL 44321. Actually, you do 44321 and text Sierra CSL. It's a good way to give online. So if you will, please put your gift on your heart and read our intentional giving statement together. I give this gift with love and joy from a consciousness of abundance. Divine love blesses and prospers all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. And we'll have the baskets come round. And it is with a deep and grateful heart that I receive these gifts and the intention with which they've been given, knowing that they bless this center and they bless the persons giving these gifts. And I know that these gifts are divinely infused with the Most High love, the Most High unity, the Most High healing, the Most High wisdom that moves through this center into the community, state, nation, and world. And I simply release this word in these gifts, and together we say, and so it is, and so it is. So I want to thank our ushers, Pat and Javon. Give it up for Pat and Javon. Our candlelighter, Billy. Announcements, Jerry Lynn. Streaming tech, Diana and Virginia. Sound, Chevron. Sign placer, Virginia. She got double duty today because Chana's off, so we're all doing different hats. Practitioner of the day, Rev K. Thank you so much. Children's Church, the Jessica Sunshine. And our platform hostess of the mostest, Rev K. And last and not least, Lauren Montgomery, our musician of the day. So beautiful. So, what are you taking away from our experience together today? Healing. Second arrow. Joy. Gratitude. Reset. Expansion. Choice. Beautiful. Good work. Okay, so we don't have any littles today, unfortunately, but we know that they'll come back. So if you will please stand, we will do our benediction. Repeat after me. Something wonderful is happening as me right now. It's this thing called acceptance. It's this thing called catching the second arrow. It's this thing called mindset reset. I know it. I feel it. I sense it. Because I am it. And so it is. Take us away, Lauren.
I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. When free in the Spirit, yes, I'm only here for God. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life. My heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I release and I let go. Let the Spirit run my life. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God.
Have a beautiful week, everyone. Join us for coffee, tea, and cookies, and Reverend panel next week, and Dr. Hazel Grace's workshop. So see you next Sunday. Have a wonderful week.